France versus Ireland in the opening game of the Six Nations this week, Thursday. Both teams have now been released. We can finally do our preview, guys. But before we get into it, if you do enjoy the content, please don't forget to like and please subscribe to help the channel grow. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, probably before the end of February. I've been overwhelmed with all the support from all the country's fans. Loving all the rugby chat, loving all the conversations, everything you guys have been doing, really been enjoying it. And we'll be talking a lot of rugby today, a lot of rugby throughout the entire tournament and throughout the whole year. So guys, if you do enjoy it, please subscribe to help the channel grow. But let's get right into it. So France and Ireland have both gone for really strong teams, but I think the storyline from this is that they've both also put some inexperienced players in there from both sides. So it's going to be very interesting to see how those two sides go against each other with inexperienced players. But they also have quite a strong group of experienced players in both sides. Now, I think where the difference will be in this game is at scrum time and how the experienced players of both teams perform. Now, I think it's going to be valuable experience for all the inexperienced guys playing this weekend. The guys that aren't really household names, the guys you're not familiar with. But I do think Ireland has chosen a very strong team and a very good team to try counter what they think they might get from France. I think going with Ireland's selections, they've gone for a very mobile forward pack, guys that can play around the park for 60 minutes, can play well in open play, some really good athletes, and I think they've chosen the right squad to take on this France team. But this France team is no joke, and there's some really phenomenal players. But let's talk about some of the key matchups in the game. I think the front row of Jean-Baptiste Gros, Julien Marchand, and Dorian Aldegheri going up against the likes of Lachman, Dan Sheehan, and a Clarkson for Ireland is going to be a very, very interesting matchup this week. I think if Ireland can somehow survive the scrums against this very, very scrum-dominant France team, then I think they could honestly get the win in this game. I think if Ireland can just hang on there in the scrums and even get a few scrum penalties themselves, with quite an inexperienced front row, they could be fine in this game. I think that's going to be the difference maker. Looking at the starters and the bench, I know on the bench, Ireland have gone for Kelleher, Milner and Beelum, which is, if you think about it, a very experienced front row on the bench, with two of the players being really experienced. And then France, Pietro Mavaka, Rodrigue Netti, and Regis Montan. So also quite experienced guys, but also not the most experienced guys, not the most household names. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how these two front rows go up against each other, both the starters and the bench guys. I think that's going to be where the difference can be made in this game. But we don't know what's going to happen. I think France at home is a tough team to beat already. Now, if you have to put a big forward pack like they've chosen up against Ireland, it's going to be tough. But I think Ireland, Andy Farrell has to take credit for the team he selected. Ireland fans will be very, very excited. A bit of a different team, a few inexperienced guys, but also a few exciting youngsters as well. Another battle, I think, will be the loose forwards. France have gone for Francois Cross, Oscar Jégu, and Anthony Jalonge. A very, very exciting, very mobile, very powerful loose trio. But Ireland, on the other hand, have gone for Cian Pendergast, Josh van der Fleer, and Caelan Doris, which I probably think is the stronger loose forward trio in this game. I'm very excited to see Cian Pendergast there starting alongside his brother Sam Pendergast. Ireland have chosen a very mobile forward pack. Now, in past years, they've chosen more of a big, heavy forward pack that can get the hard job done. But this forward pack they've chosen this week can really last 60 minutes, has a big engine, can thrive in open play. And if there's a turnover, all these guys are athletes, all these guys are ball players, and guys like Cian Pendergast and Josh van der Fleer are really trending up at the right time now. So I think that's going to be another really exciting but a really important matchup. One of the other important matchups, Jamison Gibson-Park and Sam Prendergast up against Antoine Dupont and Mathieu Jalibert. That is going to be absolute fireworks. I mean, playmakers all over the park. Jamison Gibson-Park and Antoine Dupont are the two scrum halves in World Rugby now that are probably asked to do more playmaking than other countries. I think Jamison Gibson-Park is a very underrated scrum half. Obviously, recently, probably not being at his best, but that's probably just a situation with the squad in general, the way the team's been playing. You can't just rely on one player to do everything for you. So I think Jamison Gibson-Park, if the forwards can set a good platform for him, he can go do what he does best. And a few years ago, we were saying Jamison Gibson-Park is the second best scrum half in the world, right behind Dupont. So it's going to be a very, very interesting matchup between those guys. As I said, Dupont, a playmaker, always hands on the ball, always playing around the fringes for France. Jamison Gibson-Park, still a playmaker, but more with his passing selection, who he chooses, which runner he plays, skip passes, going around the blind side. They play two different games, but they both play very important roles for their teams. Now, Sam Prendergast versus Mathieu Jalibert. Mathieu Jalibert is a bit of a Swiss Army knife. He can do everything. He can run with the ball. He can play like a fullback. He can play like a centre. He's got a good kicking game. He's got a lot of intelligence. He's a very high IQ player. Sam Prendergast, on the other hand, he likes a structured game. He chooses the right runners to play. I think when it comes to Sam Prendergast and Jameson Gibson-Park, Jameson Gibson-Park's probably got a bit more imagination. And I mean, Matthew Jalibet's obviously got a lot more imagination than Sam Prendergast. But I will give it to Sam Prendergast. Recently for Leinster, he's been a much better player on attack. And I think he's been a lot more imaginative. He's played with a bit more imagination, a bit more flair, and I like to see that from him because he can do it. He's a very good player. Otherwise, before that, he was a bit boring, the decisions he was making. Obviously, playing men's rugby for the first time, you kind of maybe go into your shell, but it's good to see Sam Prendergast kind of come out of that. And it's going to be very, very important for the kickers this weekend. I think these games like this, these closely contested games, these must-win games, when it comes to the kickers, you have to get all your kicks over. So they're going to be really counting on Sam Prendergast to make his kicks this week. And I believe he can. I mean, the coach has probably chosen for the right reasons because he's playing well, he's training well, he's kicking well at training. But obviously when it comes to match day atmosphere in the Stade de France, it's going to be different. But the same goes for Mathieu Jalibert. He probably won't be the kicker for Paul's. Thomas Ramos will, and he will have a very important job to do. But Thomas Ramos also, he's not a 100% kicker, but he is probably the best kicker in world rugby right now. So going up against a guy like him, Ireland have to be accurate with their kicks. They have to take their points when it's on offer. Especially when you're playing away at France, you have to build that scoreboard pressure. Otherwise, it's going to come back to bite you. Other really key matchups here, the back threes for both teams. I mean, O'Brien, Stockdale, and Osborne, very exciting, but also a bit inexperienced going up against the likes of a Thomas Ramos, Louis Biel-Barret, and a Theo Atisogbe. I'd say France probably has a more experienced back three right now, but the way they play is completely different. I think this Ireland back three now isn't as much kick dominant as they have been. Like recently, Ireland have been choosing really good back threes, good kicking game, good under the high ball. But I think now they've gone for really good athletes, guys that can have blistering pace, guys that can run it from anywhere, guys that can also have a good kicking game, but can also play the flair game. So I think it's going to be a very interesting battle there. I don't know what's going to happen, but some really key matchups. I mean, Louis Biel-Barret up against the likes of O'Brien is going to be fireworks, and then Stockdale against Atisogbe. Stockdale being the more experienced guy there, that's going to be exciting to see. Then looking at the bench, you got Kelleher versus Pietro Mavaka. I think Mavaka is a phenomenal player. And I think I've said in the previous video, I think him and Anton Dupont are a bit of a combination together. It's weird how they play. They as soon as Pietro Mavaka comes on, they start playing a bit more around the fringes and stuff like that. But I mean, that France bench is very strong, but also has a few inexperienced guys. But I think the key difference maker for France on the bench will be Baptiste Seren. I think he is the one guy that can really make a big impact for France this game. And likewise for Ireland. I think if things aren't going well, the passages of play aren't working out for Ireland, you can chuck on a Craig Casey and a Jack Crowley to really change the dynamic of the game. Once you change the 9-10 combination, a lot of things can change in this game. And I think it's very important for Ireland and for other teams to really keep combinations together, whether it's starting or on the bench. Now, if Jack Crowley were to start in a different game, I would probably try to start Craig Casey with him, because same thing the Springboks are doing right now. Kobus Reinach and Sasha Ngomazulu starts together, Grant Williams, Moni Lebok, building a combination of the bench together. I think that's going to be key for Ireland in this game, having a very solid combination of Craig Casey and Jack Crowley coming off the bench. How much game time they get, I don't know. I think it depends on how the dynamics going for Ireland. But another thing about this Ireland team, they've definitely chosen a team that can thrive in open play, that can run all over the park 60 minutes. They haven't chosen a heavy team that's just going to get tired quickly. They're going to go for physicality. They've chosen a mixed bag of guys that are physical, but also a lot of athletes to try counter this very athletic, very quick-paced, very fast, very powerful France team. And I think open play is going to be very tiring for all these players, but I think it's going to be a spectacle to watch as well. Now, for some of you guys' favorite parts, we're going to be choosing a combined 23 between both teams. Now, this is going to be very interesting. We're going to choose who we think are the best 23 from both teams combined and see what we have. So I've gone for Jean-Baptiste Gros at number 1. Then I've gone for Dan Sheehan at number 2. I've gone for Dorian Aldegheri at 3. I've gone for Charles Olivon at number 4. At number 5, I've gone for Tide Byrne. He's probably the best forward right now in Ireland's team. At number 6, I've gone for Francois Cross. At number 7, I've gone for Josh van der Fleer. At number 8, I've gone for Caelan Doris. Now, there's a bit of a mixture there. I think, honestly, looking at this, especially locks backwards. Front row, I think France are stronger. But looking at the locks backwards, I think Ireland probably have a stronger team in the forward pack. I really think that for this game, Ireland's forward pack might be a little bit stronger. But I think France just get that boost being at home. hostile atmosphere in front of their home crowd in France. The way they play, they don't really care who they choose. They're all going to pitch up. They're all going to play for each other. It's going to be tough to beat them. So very interesting there. At number 9, I've gone for Antoine Dupont. At number 10, Mathieu Jalibert. At number 12, I've gone for Yoram Moefana right now. Number 13, Gary Ringrose. Number 11, I've gone for Louis Belbaret. Number 14, O'Brien. And number 15, Thomas Ramos. So, I mean, a bit of a 50-50 in the backline as well, which just shows how close this game's going to be. This is going to be such a spectacle. This is going to be such a close game. And I think the backline, the hardest position for me to choose is probably number 12. I think Stuart McCloskey versus Yoram Moefana is going to be fireworks in the centres. Both physical, both good ball players. I think Yoram Moefana is in the form of his life right now. So I think that's why I went with him alongside Mathieu Jalibert. Might be a bit more comfortable alongside him. And I think this France team at home just seems more comfortable. If it was in Ireland, it might have been a different selection because this France team can go a bit hot and cold away from home. But that's also something for France to work on. And one of the storylines for them in the Six Nations is, can they play the same away from home that they do at home? Previously they have. Will they be able to this year? I don't know. But it's going to be interesting with some of the inexperienced guys as well being in the squad. Now looking at the bench, I've gone for Pietro Mavaka. Then I've gone for Rodrigue Netti, Finlay Beelum, James Ryan, Jack Conan. Then I've also gone for Lenny Nushi, Baptiste Seren, and Jack Crowley. So also a bit of a 50-50, maybe swaying a bit more towards Ireland, but I think overall for the combined team, it's probably one or two more players Ireland side than it is France, and that's only because I probably know them more as household names. Me, if I was to watch top 14 every week, I'd probably choose more France players, but I myself gravitate more towards the URC right now. But it just shows this is going to be such a close game. This is going to be a phenomenal game to watch, guys, and I cannot wait for this one. My prediction for this game, I'm going to go for France getting the win. I think it's going to be a close game. I just think France, maybe at scrum time, might just do a bit better. I think France is going to come out firing. And I think if Ireland get behind early, it's going to be very tough to get back in the game. I think if you go behind early in France, it's near impossible to come back. It's honestly near impossible. We've only seen it like less than a handful of times. So I'll go for France winning this game. I think scrum time, they're going to have a bit more dominance. But I think open play is going to be pretty much a 50-50. And I think whoever takes their chances more probably might come off better. I think with Ireland having some inexperienced guys, they might start slow. They might try feel out France a bit with some guys. Obviously, some guys are still experienced, very experienced. But the likes of Caden Doris also coming back from a long-term injury recently, trying to get back to his best form. I just think France right now probably are the team primed to come out and come out with a bang, get maybe 1 or 2 tries early on, and then Ireland starts to settle. But if Ireland can settle early, they can honestly win this game. I'm very surprised and I'm very impressed with the selections Andy Farrell's made. It's a bit of a different team, a bit of a different squad, and I can't wait to see how they go against this France team. I think both teams, there's some exciting selections, guys who can maybe prove their worth going into the rest of the season, prove their worth going into the World Cup next year. So it's going to be exciting. Also, there's going to be other guys on the sideline for Ireland trying to get back in the team, guys really trying to make an impact, guys playing for the first time or seeing as the first option for the first time, going to try and make an impact, keep the jersey as theirs. So there's a lot of storylines in this game, but my prediction, France by probably 3 points to a try. I don't normally do by how many points, but I think it'll probably be France by a little bit. But if Ireland wins, I won't be surprised. If Ireland do win, it'll be an absolutely huge win for them to start the year. As I think recently, Ireland have just been a bit stagnant, maybe a bit on the decline. But now with this new team, it could be maybe the first few games here, but then you can just maybe start to see them go up the ranks again. So I think it's going to be an awesome game, guys. I will be doing a full-time reaction, and I'll be doing a player ratings right after for both teams of every single player that played. I'll be doing a player ratings for them. So if you do enjoy the content, please don't forget to subscribe to help the channel grow, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.